I got a confession to make. I watch Love is Blind. Not only do I watch Love is Blind, I love Love is Blind. And the whole concept, and you fall in love in 10 days and get married. I'm Haitian. We fall in love after one conversation. So of course, I was gonna watch the show. But I was never planning on talking about Love is Blind on this channel. I just wasn't gonna do it. Like, I just don't fit the demo of Love is Blind. But because of this season and the discourse around my favorite couple, Clay and AD, I just feel like I have to say something. And I also watch other people's reactions. Like, I'm telling you, this is my shit. Like, this is my guilty pleasure. As I'm watching other people's content, and I'm like, whoa, I don't feel that way. And now, I just feel like I have to make a video. I have to talk about this couple because I think this is the best couple this season. I think they're gonna get married. And overall, I love their dynamic. I love what they have going on. So let's talk about it. But before we talk about it, we have to start in the very beginning when they first met each other in the pods, because I feel like that's where everything started. That's when I felt like their relationship would work. And also, that's when the discourse around them also started calling Clay a walking red flag because of certain reactions. So let's talk about it. Clay and AD meet and they kind of hit it off. Clay's funny, he's charming, and AD, like, she's giggling. Clay's laying down the sauce and AD's just baking in it, right? But overall, I like their dynamic. But of course, things start shifting when Clay asks AD what she looks like. And I know the concept of Love is Blind. It's Love is Blind. It doesn't matter what your physical appearance is, because that's not what you're here for. You're here to find love. And we've seen other interracial relationships talk about that, because those are things like, granted, he doesn't know what she looks like. She's describing a general figure, but I can see where that, like, I understand Clay and I understand AD. And ultimately, AD did not tell him what she looks like. And Clay still decided to marry AD. He still decided to go through with AD. And he did have a reaction to Matthew, and that was another point of discourse, like when he was like, Matthew? But honestly, we all said Matthew. It's not just about the way Matthew looks. It's not a judgment of physical appearance where we're saying Clay is being shallow or superficial, but Matthew was a creep. We found out Matthew was reciting the same, Matthew was walking out on women, being generally rude, and he's using and manipulating daddy issues with women, using the same, like, that's why Clay was shocked. Even in the guys' dorms, Matthew didn't talk to anybody. Like, he was a weirdo, so it's not a physical appearance thing. It's Matthew! But ultimately, that didn't matter. He and Clay chose each other, and finally when Clay saw it, his face lit up. Because say what you will about Clay and AD, people have all these sort of discussions and discourse about Clay's type, about whether AD's light skin, whether Clay's, even his sexuality is being brought into this. I'm gonna interject some clips from some other people's videos. Like,
I don't think that women are Clay's preference. That's just my opinion. I don't think that Clay is straight.
You see what I mean? Even the man's sexuality is being brought into question because of perceived perception of his type. AD is beautiful. Clay's jaw dropped when he saw her. When she turned around, and granted, I know people are gonna say it's her body, but AD's a cute woman. Physically in her face, she's cute. Body is, y'all seen this shit. I'm speechless. So of course, Clay's lusting, like, but he also connected with her before he ever saw her. He also decided in the pod before he even knew what she looked like, he was gonna marry her. And her physical appearance is just icing on the cake. That's some damn good icing, but still icing on the cake. So boom, they get engaged, they go to DR, they have a good time. Like, the physical attraction is there, not just from Clay. But let's keep it 100%. Clay was lusting after AD. AD damn near fainted when she saw this nigga Clay. The physical attraction's there. So I'm sure once they got to DR, it was on and popping. And I'm seeing the narrative go from as soon as Clay hit that, he was a little bit disinterested. Because once they met the group, Clay was the one who was the least on his girl. And Clay kind of let AD do her thing. He was doing his own thing, and people were saying like he doesn't seem interested in her. He's not even worried about her being fawned over by all these niggas. Like, we saw, like, by the way, even though I love this couple, the person I love the most this season is Jimmy. And we saw how Jimmy was reacting to AD. But ultimately, that is a projection of people's opinions. I feel like AD was also not checking for Clay when he was out talking with the boys, because you can tell when Clay and AD walked on that beach, like, there was the most beautiful couple there. And Clay knew none of these guys were a threat. So it's a level of confidence with your girl that you have in the crowd that you have. Go rock out. Like, Jimmy could have said whatever he wanted, even if he didn't do anything. He was respectful to AD, but ultimately, if Jimmy wanted to spit any game he wanted to, Clay knew, like, I got motion in here, like this not happening. But in that same event, when Jeremy talked about the bean dip, Clay shut that shit down immediately. Like, we talk about how he doesn't care about AD, but Clay put his foot down like he was not having it. It was a joke, but like AD said, it's not a joke to Clay. Like, Clay even told Jeremy that shit wasn't funny. He stood up for his woman. He defended her when he needed to. He gave her the space to flourish because she's banging. He knows the type of woman she has. He knows how banging her body is. He understands that, and he's secure in himself and secure in his woman and his relationship where she can rock out. But at the same time, when AD needed defending, Clay stood up and defended his woman. Again, where is the issue here? And while still in the DR, Clay and AD have had real conversations about their relationships. Clay has expressed himself. We always talk about wanting a communicative partner. We always want someone who's sharing what's on their mind. And at the same time, he's looking to Clay to be the leader. And as the leader of any situation, whether it's a relationship, a project, anything you're a leader of, you see the situation for what it is as is. You look forwards at different things. You look towards the past and not repeat certain mistakes. So your mind is always working. You always have doubts, because being a leader is not being fearless and you having no doubt. Being a leader is you have doubts, you have issues, you have things that you're thinking about, but ultimately you're making the right choice for the sake of whatever your project is. In this case, Clay and AD's relationship. So when Clay sits down and talks to AD and tells AD about his relationship with his father, the relationship between a black man, I'm not even gonna make this about black men, the relationship between a man and his father is one of the strongest relationships you can have. Your father shapes who you are, whether he's in your life or not. And even if you don't want to be like him, you always have that nagging thing in the back of your head. Like, you have traits. I look like this nigga. Like, my mom says I talk this way. Like, you have certain situations where that's always plaguing you. And Clay wants a healthy and beautiful relationship. But he saw the longest relationship he's ever seen was the relationship between his mom and dad, and the impact that had on him. Clay's dad took Clay with him when he went to go cheat when Clay was a kid. Do you know what that does to the psyche of a young boy, absorbing the leader of your life? Do you know how that shapes you? That can either shape you in two paths. You either follow his path or don't. And even when you don't follow his path, like that's always playing in the back of your head, because on one side, you see your mama at home happy because they were together for 24 years, happy, right? And even the mom said 24 good years. You see she's happy, but at the same time, you see behind the closed doors what the dad's doing and how, like, it's fucking with him. And the fact that he can actually sit there and articulate this, to put himself on a vulnerable playing field with his woman, let her know his self-doubts, like, that shit is scary. And the more a woman, and he sees how AD feels about him, she expresses it, and the more a woman pours into you in that way, as a black male in my early 30s like Clay, I'm only speaking from my experience. When a woman is pouring this much into you like you want to give her the world. You want that responsibility, but at the same time, doubts come in your head of, I don't want to let this person down. I want to focus on creating the best relationship. At the same time, these doubts, these insecurities, and usually most people keep it bottled in. Most men don't tell you, they just say nothing's on their mind. But you always know, you see men, you see them sitting down pensive all the time. They're always thinking about the next step. How do I protect this? How do I lead correctly? And Clay is opening up, sharing his vulnerabilities with AD, telling her, these are the doubts I have. This is not what I want to do. He's not telling her, I think I'm going to cheat on you every time. He's telling her, this is what I've been raised with. This is what I'm afraid of. I'm not that person, but could I become that person? Is that not possible? Like, was my father always that way? Like, those are doubts that you have, and he's open enough to share it with his woman. I think that's fucking beautiful. I wouldn't have done that, because you won't leave yourself vulnerable for her to reject you for something that you're not even thinking about doing, but it's just wandering thoughts. I wouldn't have done that. Also, I wouldn't have cleaned up the table like he did too, but that's a whole other discussion for another video. But ultimately, they connected. And AD understood it. And we also don't know what they talk about when the cameras are off, because when they go back home and Clay is spending the night away, Clay has a job, Clay has 2 side hustles, I understand it. Why it's tough on his relationship, he also expresses it to, and she understands it as well. And at the same time, it's kind of exacerbated by the fact that AD isn't working yet. But once AD starts working, she's gonna work at a nightclub as a VIP hostess, coming home at 3 in the morning. Like, again, we see how AD looks as a VIP hostess at the club, right? And Clay's okay with that. Clay understands that because they have goals, they talk, they share, and it's just getting used to it. I see two couples getting used to one another. Even through everything that Clay and AD, all the conversations they have, all the connections they have, AD to looked at her mom in the eye and told her mom she'd follow this man off a cliff. She loves that nigga. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And vice versa. Last episode, Clay was with his boys getting his tuxedo ready, and this man is telling his homeboy, like, since he was 10 years old, like, this is it. This is the one, like, no doubt about it. Like, there is no doubt that Clay wants AD and AD wants Clay. All these extra narratives are just people projecting things that ultimately don't make much sense. It's a fantastical way of thinking about relationships. Clay and AD's relationship is one of the most healthiest and real relationships you can have. We have differences, we have doubts, we have different stuff. We talk about them, we reassure each other, we do this together. I don't know this, you teach me. You don't know this, I teach you. It's growing in love with each other. They love each other, but it's also growing in learning and having grace for one another. And they show that. They have fun together. They both physically are attracted to each other. They both live a similar lifestyle once AD again starts working, because she's a real estate agent and she's also a hostess. So once that starts happening, they're go-getters. They have a vision for their life. And I think their relationship is beautiful. All this other stuff about his sexuality is hate, because look how he looks at AD. I'm sorry, this nigga is drooling. That's hate. And there's a few other things I do want to address, because I don't like the narrative, because this is a black couple we're seeing. We're seeing the raw realness of two successful black people, a black man, a black woman, dark skin, both of them, and just the narrative around who's attracted to what, his sexuality, why he's attracted to her, her skin color. All that is disgusting. We talk about the wrong things when it comes to this relationship. Instead of focusing on their connection and the conversation we're having, we're judging Clay because of the way he behaves, the way he talks. He cleaned up a table, polite as hell, and people judged him as sassy and weird, challenging his sexuality because he's a black heterosexual man that has human decency. He was raised in a house with two women. Clay's little sister, who's gorgeous by the way, is dark skinned. He was raised in a household with two beautiful black women, not light skinned women, not caramel skin, black women. And he finds AD attractive as a dark skinned black woman, and the narrative around it is she's not really his type. That's disgusting. He chose to marry this woman. He's attracted to her. He's doing all the steps, having all the conversations, allowing her into his inner sanctum, and vice versa. She's doing the same thing. To say that he only wants her for her body, let's stop and think about that for a second. What is that reinforcing? He's dark skinned, AD's body's banging, and to say the only reason he wants her is because of that, even disregarding all the connections they had, where in the pods, he had no idea what she looked like. He still connected with her and he still wanted to be with her. But now we're reinforcing the very stereotypes that we say we're fighting against. We're tearing down a black woman because we're saying the man who loves her does not love her for who she is, but what she looks like. Because when AD walked in the room and all the men were gawking, and now we're saying as a society, AD was never gonna find love because of the way she looks like. It's saying a woman who looks like AD, who's naturally blessed by the gods, cannot find love because of the way she looks. Because he's only with her because of her sexuality, her sensuality, hypersexualizing her. The same things we say we fight against, but women like AD exist. They can't help the way they look. But to say someone's only attracted because of the way she looks, it's a bonus. Listen, I'm not saying he's not with her because of how she looks, but to say that's the only reason is absurd. To say that this man who was raised by a black woman has a black sister, those are the people who he brought in. Clay's dad could have been one of the people who met AD, but he brought in the black woman, the women he loves. And we saw how AD and Clay's mom got together and they kind of hit it off. When AD was cold, she took off her scarf and gave it to AD. And I know that started a dialogue, because why didn't Clay take off his jacket and give it to AD? He could have, I'll be honest, he could have, but he didn't want to because he was cold. Maybe he's not as chivalrous as I would be, because if my girl cold, baby, you can have this. Even though I'm mad inside, because you saw the weather just like I saw the weather. And we both saw it was cold. Even though it's gonna eat me up inside, I would've gave it to her. But he's not like that. And guess what? AD's still trying on a wedding dress and still wants to marry him. But ultimately, that's a dynamic between him and his wife or fiance at this point. She's clearly okay with it because she went home with the nigga. They're still like, it just is what it is. But the fact that to say that because of certain things, to project this nasty narrative that he's not attracted to her or he's gay, to challenge a black man's sexuality because he's not behaving in the way that you think he should behave is disgusting. To actually only talk about AD's hypersexualized body, you are in fact the person who is perpetuating that narrative, who is hypersexualizing her, who is making the focus on AD's body. That is also disgusting. This whole narrative around this couple is disgusting, and it just goes to show we got a lot of work to do. And they're working in real time, and the fact that we get to see some intimate conversations with him and his girl, and the way they can interact, and the way he's able to use girl lingo with his girl. But ultimately, I think Clay gonna marry AD. AD finna marry Clay. They love each other. That shit's gonna work. He loves her. Personality first, body second. Which one did he love more? I mean, to me they're equal, but to each his own. And I think she loves him. We have to stop doing this. This is real black love we're watching here. And instead of celebrating it, we're all tearing it down. Ask yourselves why. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. That is my Love is Blind quick touch up on. Again, if y'all like this, I might do more Love is Blind videos. Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.